a lot of people are focusing on equality. We want equality for all. Just because you have a disease, because you're different, doesn't mean you're lesser.
I say, Africa must wake up, the sleeping sons of Jacob, for what tomorrow may bring. May a better day come. Yesterday we were kings. Can you tell me, young ones, who are we today? Yeah, now, well, Africa must wake up.
All right.
You're cozy now?
Let's get down to business.
Let's get down to business.
Let's get down to business.
All right. First order of business.
Who are we?
Who are we?
Well, I'm Drew. I'm a white male, grew up in a rich family, white community. That's about it.
That's about it for you, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I'm Omar. I'm your average Mexican born in the United States. Middle class family.
Yep.
That's about it. Small town.
Mm-hmm. So what are we talking about here?
They're going to see the name.
Yeah.
Right. So let's just go right into it.
Okay. Here we're going to be talking about the discrimination of using cannabis.
Usually, you know, discrimination is a very intense word. It's a very tense word. You know, would you agree with me on that?
Oh yeah. I think before we really get into all the discrimination part of this, we should focus on cannabis first.
Cannabis first.
We're taking an approach of, you know, looking at more of a medicinal substance. Many people all over the United States, all over the world, use this substance, you know, to help depression, help diseases. It can help a lot with the treatment of cancer. And so we're taking an approach looking at this from a medicinal purpose. And Omar and I have no say in whether you should partake in it. That's something that needs to be discussed with a doctor and of course, a legal state.
We do not. Our message is not telling you go out and consume cannabis.
No, we don't. We
are going to come
it.
forward now completely and be direct. That is not what our message is for. Our message is to simply discuss the topic of discrimination within within cannabis itself.
Mm-hmm. We know it's a problem within the community, and we're addressing that problem. We don't care what your opinion is on cannabis. We're talking about a problem here in our society, and we're just getting a message out.
So let's go right to it.
All right.
I'm just gonna put the question out there, Drew. What is discrimination?
So, it's a huge, broad question. Are you asking me like what I think about, like what I envision when I hear discrimination? Like what comes to my mind when I hear discrimination?
Just go for it. You know, discrimination. It's
discrimination.
It's a very broad topic.
Mm-hmm.
I
mean, obviously, living in America, we are a generation who tries to end discrimination on everything. And so we hear it from races to gender. Every topic you can think of has some kind of discrimination nowadays.
But going back to that, you know, what really is discrimination? What is like the definition of discrimination?
Well, discrimination, I mean, it all roots from a single cause. I mean, when you think about what really is discrimination, like how do we know if it's discrimination in society? We kind of, I think a good way to look at it is back in middle school, you always learn about the feudalism era. They had a hierarchy of government, and they really like to explain what a hierarchy is, and it's basically one group of people above the other. So you had your peasants, and then you had your knights and nobles, and then above that you had your kings, and there was also a hierarchy. And in present-day society, that's not acceptable anymore. We believe that all men should be made equal and that no one is above anyone else in society. And so what it really is discrimination is just putting someone below you. And
I was gonna say it's when you like put somebody down, right?
Yeah.
It's when you are above somebody because of X reason or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
When you are putting people below you, below your level, That is what I think
Oh yeah.
discrimination is.
hmm It's when you have a friend and then you find out, they're smoking cannabis, and you're like, okay, if you're in a legal state and they're using it as a medicinal purpose, like, people will stop being friends with that person for using it because they don't want to be affiliated with it, and it's going more for. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. It's
that's fine. I've been putting a lot on you though. I've been asking you some big questions.
Mm-hmm.
So, and every answer you've given me, you're giving me something else to want to talk about, and that's what I'm enjoying right now is the fact that you're engaged in this just as much as I am. Like you want to talk about this. Is something that's important to you. And following up on what you were saying is, when you find out, you find out a friend is smoking cannabis in a legal state, there's that judgment there. Mm-hmm. You notice that? You hesitated. You hesitated yourself. You know, we're raised this judgment. Like, from a young age, you have the Dare Tiger and all those other anti-drug programs, and the main one, at least in my school growing up, was cannabis.
Yeah, they drill it into your brain that it's an illegal drug and it ruins your life.
And now we have people using it medicinally and helping them with their day-to-day life and all these other great things, like you said, with cancer treatments and just helping in general. I lost my train of thought there.
Well, you're just talking about how it helps the people who need to get day by day.
I was going back to the judgment is what I was going to root back for. I understand that, yes, it is a drug. Yes, it is a drug. And we understand that. That's why we say
it's a medicinal substance.
It's a medicinal substance. We're talking about using it medically. We have to talk about that because the people that we're talking about getting discriminated against are usually the people that use it medically. And I'm talking, like, there are places they won't hire you even if you're in a legal state because you consume cannabis. And that is what I don't understand of the balance of levels. Like that hierarchy you're talking about still exists in the professional world. Yeah,
and so I mean, what you're going for there is you're kind of looking at, so if I'm living in a legal state, okay, I've been depressed my entire life, and cannabis has really helped me get my life together. It makes me focus in college, helped me get good grades. It got my life together kind of, and that's not all the cases, but some medicinal users, that's the case, and they go to go get their dream job, and on the application it says, have you ever smoked cannabis? And you're like, well, yeah, I smoke cannabis medicinally, and the employer can still actually decline them for smoking cannabis in a legal state, which is clearly saying this person who has great grades, good application, but they're lower in society because they smoke cannabis.
And my question is why?
That's the question. That it shouldn't be. It should not be. Why? It shouldn't be.
It all just goes back to the fact that federally, it is still a drug.
Oh yeah, federally it is still a drug.
And we have to understand the states that have not legalized it yet. The users of cannabis in those states have to understand that. But we're talking about people that use it medicinally. So this is a whole different. Whole different spectrum.
If you're looking at more recreational activity, you're looking more of like an alcohol kind of situation, and employers can do their own, address alcohol their own way, but they still shouldn't not be able to hire someone for drinking alcohol. It should still be, you can't go into work drunk. You shouldn't be able to go into work like baked as shit. And if you can't perform that job and it's for your safety to not be high at work, that's a good reason to not to have it be you can't smoke at work. Now, that's a completely different topic than smoking at all, because lots of people will smoke in their own home and not involve their work life at all, but they still can't have those upper end jobs that they dream of having.
And it's interesting. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess another question I just had for you is, it was a great question and it's gone.
Oh, damn.
I don't know what it is. It was, you were talking, and it was at that point where you were discussing how you shouldn't come in to work high.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, no, I remembered it. My question was, do you believe that people, since they are allowed to take a smoke break for cigarettes, if they are in a legal state, do you think that they should be allowed to consume cannabis on their smoke breaks?
Now, that's a good question. I mean, what I have to ask you is, if people are taking smoke breaks for cannabis, is there going to be a set amount they can smoke? Because, I mean, many jobs in the U.S., you can easily be high for and still perform at a normal function or even at a higher function. But at a limit, that does drop when you smoke a large amount. And so if people are going and taking breaks for work and smoking large amounts of cannabis, they're going to come into work and not much productivity is going to get done. And that's, I think, should be up to the employer, though. I think they should be allowed. But, the employer should kind of designate whether or not they want their employees coming into work under the influence.
And I'm gonna agree with you, because you don't want someone working if they can't work, right? Because then the business is losing money, and the productivity's lower, and it doesn't work out in anybody's favor at that point.
And the discrimination itself isn't because you're a bad employee. It's because of the cannabis. So, I mean, if you're smoking cannabis and you go into work high and you get fired for that, that's not discrimination necessarily. The discrimination part of it is you may be having the same amount of productivity as every other employee there, or maybe even better, and you're still getting fired for smoking cannabis. If your productivity falls below, what they want, you're going to get fired whether you're smoking cannabis or not. And so this isn't trying to just say you can't fire people because they smoke cannabis. Oh no. It's it's saying good people who are good employees should be able to have the job they want to have and do it with a high level of productivity. They should love doing it.
So I guess what you're saying is the workers should not allow the cannabis to affect how they work in the work environment.
Yes.
Negatively.
Yes.
Negatively,
yes.
Okay.
Because companies encourage, boost of productivity. They encourage that.
Of course.
Yeah, and so the company would want that if it's boosting the productivity. It's just if someone is in a legal state working for a company and they get fired for smoking cannabis, what seems off to me though is from that is these people might not only be depressed or any non-immediately life-threatening disease, because some cannabis can help treat very life-threatening diseases, and having cancer in let's say Colorado could mean you don't get the job you want, and that shouldn't be the case. It shouldn't be. You aren't below in society for having a disease. It's just
now is the approach you're taking right now. You shouldn't be. just because you have this disease and you're treating it with cannabis, because we're making sure to get the point across that the discrimination has to do with cannabis.
Yes.
Right. So why should you be discriminated against for taking care of yourself and taking a medicine for the people that use it medicinally? I feel like that's ironic, and it's sadly ironic that that's really an issue that we have to address. You know, that people aren't getting hired, people are getting looked down upon, and being judged, and all these terrible things for trying to take care of themselves, for treating themselves,
for making themselves better. Just because someone has an imbalance in their chemicals in their brain doesn't make them a lesser person than you. THC, which comes from cannabis, which affects the neurons in your brain, that may stabilize a lot of, neurotransmitters within the brain, and it could make someone feel the same way a person feels normally within focus-wise and productivity. And someone, working to better themselves shouldn't be put down. And we don't put down old people, do we? Because after after you retire, you're not doing too much, for the productivity of the government, and that's the overall main point of businesses, is productivity. And we don't think of elderly people as lesser in society just because they're older. We think of them as wise, more knowledgeable people. And so just because, I'm sorry, I lost where I was going with that again.
Just because people use cannabis.
They shouldn't be thought of lesser.
Right.
And if you are hearing this, we're saying it over and over again.
Yeah, and that has to do with the fact that repetition helps the message, and a big point of this is to point it out in the first place. Point it out in the first place, because
we're just pointing it out
until we talked about it and came up with the idea for this episode. I had thought about this before, but I had never truly thought about it, and it's important to bring up. It's important to bring up because not only does it happen within the workplace, but it happens within everyday lives. Like we talked about that hierarchy, and whenever, like you said with your friend, going back to that, you find out your friend has depression, uses cannabis to treat that, or anxiety, or even go worse, your friend has cancer, and is using cannabis. As soon as a lot of people hear cannabis, they instantly think lower of that person.
It's a sad truth in society. It's a sad truth.
I guess I feel like we should also talk about how that happens within the family itself, and just within the people around you. So I feel like a big problem is that people that use cannabis medicinally have a problem talking about the fact that they do. They don't want to. And that goes back to the judgment.
I want to ask you a question here.
All right, go for it.
Why aren't people talking about this topic? So if you go out onto Google right now, or whatever web search browser you use, and type in, what we're talking about, discrimination of the use of cannabis. We're not talking about legalization, what should be legal, not federally. We're talking about the discrimination people get for using cannabis. And so, why is it like people don't talk about it?
I feel like there's multiple reasons for this. There's multiple reasons. The first one I think of course, is that the fact that if you're from an area that it has not been legalized, then it is illegal. It is illegal federally.
Oh yeah.
That's
Okay.
the big
Yeah.
part.
No, that's a big part.
It's illegal federally.
If you live in an illegal state, it's totally fine to not want to associate yourself with it because you don't. It's an illegal substance, and it's totally fine to not want to associate yourself with it. However, that's different from discrimination. And I lost where I was going with that again.
I don't know what's going on with us.
Yeah.
See, I feel like right now
I've got so many thoughts flowing through my mind. I'm like, oh, I want to cover this. I want to cover this. And it's just like I get lost in my mind. I'm so excited about this topic because it's such a present thing. And I don't know why, Omar and I are the ones stepping up to talk about this. This should be a thing. When you're in a legal state, it should be a thing people are talking about. I mean, you hear about how people didn't get a job and like they feel like that shouldn't be a thing, but no one's really taking a stand and saying this should change. We're saying it's wrong, but we're not making a change. We're not standing up for ourselves. And people need to realize if they're taking a medicine for themselves, they should be happy that they're finding the help they need. They're becoming a better person themselves by using a medicinal substance.
And you see, that's the problem. That right there is the problem. We don't see that. People don't see that. People only see the negative. And I feel like that's a problem in humanity. Like that problem goes way past cannabis discrimination. I feel like it's so easy as humans to put someone below us. And that's a problem humanity has in general. And that's something for a whole nother episode, a whole nother touchy topic to base on.
We'll be covering lots of touchy topics.
As humans, it's so easy. It's so easy to see the negative. It's so easy to see the negative. And I keep repeating that because it's true. And people think about it, but we don't actually do anything sometimes to try to find a positive.
Humanity is selfish. And
humanity is selfish.
We like to think of ourselves above other people. We like to see the good in us and the faults in others. And in our mind, we kind of make our own little hierarchy. And it's a sad truth.
It is a sad truth.
Anyway, going back to what you said, how someone in a family, maybe they're just out of high school, just got their med card in a medicinal state, and they start using cannabis, and it really turns their life around. They get a good job. They start doing really well in college. And it becomes a big part of their life. It helps them get day by day. And going back to what you said with these kids, they're going to be scared to tell their relatives, their family, that they smoke. And with that, I have a story that I'm going to be telling soon too. But those kids, they shouldn't be afraid to tell their parents that they're getting the help they need. And Omar, if you're going to say anything, please go right ahead.
You're on a roll, man, and I'm just absorbing everything you say because I know eventually that we're going to engage in a conversation where what you told me is going to be useful in portraying what I am thinking, because we have a different manner of thinking about and saying things. But our message is still the same that we're trying to send.
Oh, yeah. So
it's nice to hear you go off because the passion's there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and I'm very passionate about this topic.
And I can hear it. And it, not only is it rude for me to just like hop in, even though this is our show. This is our thing.
No, it's not rude.
But the thing is, if you're on a roll, you're going to say something that I either agree or disagree with, that I can turn around and switch the whole conversation on that one thing you just said. So as a as a co-host and as a listener myself, one of the best things I can do is just let you say what you have to say, and then say what I have to say. And
oh yeah,
that's about all we can do is just try to spread our message.
it's all about spreading the message right now. But I'm moving to a story from our friend though. His name would like to remain anonymous. For the purpose of the story, we're gonna call him Alex. Now Alex, he's a good friend of Omar and I, and unfortunately, a lot of people in his life have discriminated against him. And it's really sad that he has these stories to tell us. Alex started using cannabis about a year and a half ago avidly, and it helped him really focus. Beforehand, he was depressed. He was in and out of the hospital. He was switching between medications. He had ADHD. He just bounced around the room. He had no control of himself. And when he started smoking cannabis, it really changed his life. It got him focused. It made him have dreams. And he got bigger aspirations in life. When Alex came up to his family, to his mother and his father, and told them that he had been smoking cannabis recently and it had really helped him, unfortunately, his father at first wanted to disown him. His father had 3 rules for him in life: no teenage pregnancy, no drugs, and no prison. And he classified cannabis as a drug and purely hateful with it. And Alex didn't speak to his father for at least 3 weeks after that moment. And his father was really about to disown him because he had started smoking cannabis. The only reason he didn't is because Alex's mother stepped in and said, "You disown him, I'm divorcing you." And Alex's father obviously, okay, I can deal with it. But it's so sad to hear that a father would almost disown, their son.
Child.
Yeah, their own child.
Their own child.
I know Alex's father loves him dearly. He loves him with all of his heart. I know his father, and he loves him with all of his heart. But it's so sad that smoking cannabis puts you such down in society that your own father might never want to see you again.
That considers disowning you.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes right back to the hierarchy, right back to the beginning of the episode. To the point to where it affects your flesh and blood. Drew, your own flesh and blood. The people that have been there since your first day.
Your parents
could turn around and twist like that on you.
And Alex, his entire life it's wrapped around his family and his friends. He lives for other people. And so having the person so close to his heart, his father, like his play buddy throughout his entire life, who he could always go do something with, be like, "I never want to see you again,"
I'm just gonna say it. That would fuck me up.
It's fucked up.
That would fuck me up. If my father told me that he would disown me, he would disown me. It would fuck me up. Because it's crazy, Those are, that's your family. That's your family.
And this is why Alex is giving us this message. He wants us to let us tell people about what's going on in his life, to show that this isn't just something we're talking about. It's a real situation. It's not just one person. It happens to lots of people all over the world.
And knowing Alex, that would really affect him. If his father would have disowned him, know who Alex would be right now. Because like you said, Alex lives for his family. He lives for his friends, always lending a helping hand. But then as soon as you find out that Alex uses cannabis, instantly see him as less.
I'm sorry. I'm really close to Alex. I'm crying a little bit here.
It hits the feels, man.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point of this message.
Mm-hmm.
Because Alex is bettering himself. He's doing this to.
Well, I know the way
help
I
him.
know the way he is when he is using cannabis. I know the way he is when he's not using cannabis, and I fully support him using it. I mean, he's got his morals and set. He's got standards he's got to meet, and he meets those standards. He's a good guy.
He doesn't. I feel like Alex knows the issues he's going to face when people find out that he uses cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the attitude he has is, yes, I consume cannabis, but that doesn't make you better than me.
Exactly.
Because Alex gets his homework done, honestly, probably more frequently than I do.
Mm-hmm.
Alex is always on time. Alex is a pretty reliable person.
Mm-hmm. I can always rely on Alex.
But yet we still see him as lower.
Mm-hmm. And it's sad. It hits me in the heart that someone, like him would be discriminated against like this. And we're going to talk about more topics with Alex too, because this is the only situation he's gone through in his life. And we're really kind of trying to spread his message, because these situations, they shouldn't happen from smoking cannabis in your society.
So let's you know what? Let's continue to talk about Alex.
Okay.
Let's continue to talk about Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Alex had another issue.
Mm-hmm.
Recently.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to let us know about that?
I mean, feel free to put in any info. I mean, Omar and I were both here for the situation. We know exactly what happened, and so feel free to jump in whenever you want.
Of course.
But a situation happened on our campus a while ago where Alex ended up getting assaulted by another student and an attempted stabbing on campus grounds. And we're gonna be pretty honest about it. I mean, it was over cannabis. Alex owed this girl some money. I mean, it was $150. I mean, so in the grand scheme of a college kid, that's a good amount of money. Yeah.
Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm broke.
Oh yeah.
I'm
broke.
Yeah. So $150
most college
to
kids
me
are
right
broke.
Now, $150 to me right now sounds like a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, what do you want to do for $150? Are you willing to stab someone for $150?
For $150, no.
Exactly. I mean, we're talking more, $1,000.
I don't necessarily want to stab anybody for some money, but certainly not $150.
Exactly. And so people are going to find out about it. Campus don't want people finding out about it. And it's simply because they don't want the bad publicity, the discrimination. And just because the school discriminated against the person because they were going to get discriminated against themselves. And so it's just a chain.
I'm gonna finish the story.
Okay.
I'm gonna finish the topic and finish this episode by posing a question about the whole situation that I want us to think about on our own and the audience to also think about, because we are running short on time, and that is our fault for getting so engaged in the conversation. So my question is, I believe that the school, even though it is a cannabis-related issue and they don't want the bad publicity, they should care about the well-being of their students and the safety of their students. So why not take precaution after that situation? Why did they react the way they did? Why did they do what they did? Why?
Discrimination. You can't explain why. It's human nature. It's human nature. And this generation in the United States is honestly working to end that part of our humanity. A lot of people are focusing on equality. We want equality for all. Just because you have a disease, because you're different, doesn't mean you're lesser. And go ahead.
Yeah. The point of this podcast itself is to address those topics that we find touchy. And this
things that don't want to be talked about.
This whole thing that we just discussed, this discrimination within cannabis, is something that nobody wants to bring up. And that's our goal. To simply talk about things that a lot of people don't want to. And that's what we do, and that's what we're going to do. And we just want you to enjoy it with us.
And now, ending with the discrimination of cannabis use, I want to tell the audience, put yourself in Alex's shoes. Think, how would you feel if, your father, or if you don't have a father, your mother, or your caretaker, or someone who has a huge emotional part of your life, to think they don't want to be around you anymore just because of a medicine you're taking. And think about how you would feel. Think about how you would feel if you were attacked in your own home, because it was on campus in the lobby 5 feet from his room.
It was right in the residence hall.
Yeah.
It was right in the residence
And so how would you feel if, someone came after you, and the people who say they're, protecting you and making sure that you're safe, try and cover it up.
And don't do anything
about it.
How would you feel?
How would you feel yourself if you were that person in that situation? And that's really why
they didn't even check up on Alex really either.
They didn't.
They didn't follow up with him. They didn't talk to him. They didn't when he went to the hospital. They didn't ask how it went. Nothing. They simply ended it. And we're simply just gonna have to end this episode here. And it's been great.
Well, thank you for listening to us. This is Touchy Topics, episode 1.
You can find us on SoundCloud, and we will soon have a YouTube channel up. Thank you for the love.
Touchy Topics, out.